All right. Wow, that's a really abrupt ending. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. Hey, I'm here with Kevin Hargis again, the sleeveless edition, Grant Hubbard, gutter growth, and we're gonna talk part two of six of some safety. Thanks again for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I figured with what we're talking about, the safety orange was going to be a good outfit for today, so that's what I went with.
That's so awesome because I was doing some cleaning up in my office studio man cave, and I came across a whole bunch of just safety vests that I think I bought, and I was like, you know what? Um, I think I'm gonna wear one, and then I didn't. I was actually sitting over there, but yeah, that's funny. What's
Yeah,
going on with you today on a Friday, man?
it was a pretty easy Friday office day for me. Had crews out doing some work, catching up on in the office, and well, hopefully getting ready for a good weekend.
Yeah, yeah. We got the holidays coming up, a lot to be thankful for. And,
Absolutely.
speaking of safety, we're always thankful. Seems like mostly for our loved ones, right? We try to steer away from all the material things, and it's the people in our lives that we care about. And this is a great season to maybe let that emotion grab you a little bit as we come into that Thanksgiving season, that Christmas season. Sometimes during that time of year, we get a little bit more grounded and we try to refocus and realign for the next year. And what a great time to just be talking about safety a bunch. So
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
just dive into some statistics you've got. I know when people watch, man, they want to hear the action, right? They want to
Well,
learn and know.
yeah. What do we say in business? Data doesn't lie. So when you want to find out what's going on with your business, you look at the data, you look at the statistics, so you can analyze it, and then you've got it black and white, and you can see where you need to improve, where you're losing, where you're gaining. So I thought I'd start off with that, um, talking about ladder safety, because the majority of us are using ladders. Yeah, I mean, we do some on lift work and things like that, but since the majority is ladder work, I thought I'd give some stats here. So on average, 500,000 people a year are treated for ladder related injuries.
Mm,
300 people die from ladder related injuries every year. That's a lot, when
yeah,
you
that
when
is.
you think about it. Now, I'm sure that some people say, well, yeah, but that's homeowners and that's everybody. But we're on ladders more than the average person. So again, statistically speaking, we have a higher rate or a higher chance of
Yep.
having a problem. And then going into that, the leading cause of injuries from ladders are extension ladders. And the majority of us, again, if you're getting up on two-story houses, even one-story, you're putting an extension ladder up, right? And that's where the highest rate is. Now, here was another interesting stat. Age is a risk factor as well. So we talked about this on the last one, but the older we get, we're not as steady on ladders. Well, the older you get, the more likely you are to get hurt. So I had talked about that when I was talking to people, and they're like, I've been climbing ladders for 20 years and I've never fallen. Well, your chance of falling increases as you get older and the more often that you're on a ladder. And then another one that I thought was really, really interesting was employment status. You might think that hourly or salaried workers are the most likely to fall or get injured on a ladder. It's actually self employed workers. So,
they're so stressed out.
well, and we talked about it where we have that mindset that we got to get this job done. It's only a foot out of the way, and I don't want to get down and move the ladder, so I'm just going to hook my leg. I'm just going to reach over. We have that mindset more where, maybe an hourly employee is going to go, no, I can't reach that. So they're going to get down because they're getting paid by the hour, right? Doesn't
Isn't
really
that the
matter.
truth?
Yeah. And then also, men are much more likely to be injured on the ladder than women. So I had said, I'm going to admit, as a man in the industry, that ego can play a lot into that. So those are the numbers, and the data doesn't lie. And one more that I'll add to that, because you had mentioned that people don't want to take the extra time. 'Cause that's money, right? I'm on this job a half an hour, an hour longer. Ladder injuries per year cost about $24 billion.
Yeah.
As the business owner, if you get a work comp, if you're off work, you can't earn money. So looking at the numbers, the monetary part of it differently and seeing it from the other perspective of what it could cost you if there is an accident versus what it's going to cost you to do it right, the numbers tend to look a little different.
100%. And a lot of people think like, oh, you're being over dramatic with the numbers. And a lot of people are also, let me credit the people that are absolutely aware and keyed in on safety, right? There's a bunch of great businesses that I know, and I'm sure that you know. But I also, because I don't walk around with the judgment finger, know a lot of my very close friends and people that are running businesses. And I can't say because I don't run a gutter business right now. I run different things. But the truth is, a lot of people say those numbers they're not for us. Those are other people. And that's the problem. Do you want to become one of those people, or are you just always going to think it can't happen to you? If I look at the top 20 gutter companies, and the top doesn't mean the best. So now all of a sudden everybody's knows exactly who I'm talking about. All my friends, not necessarily. If I just go in a region, right? So let's take it to, if I just went into southern Texas or Dallas down towards Mexico, there's a lot of injuries that happen in the home service industry every single year. We don't have to think the conclusion to everything is death. It's just not walking right ever again, having back pain for the entire rest of your life, never having this arm right here that doesn't open all the way again. You know, like brain damage, but you're still functioning, but you can't remember anything. There's so many of these accidents that absolutely do happen and payouts. It's going to cost you a fortune. Cut massively, lots of stitches, right? Like in the metal industry, people get cut, they open themselves up nasty all the time. And if you just don't want that to be you, I think that there's some good safety measures that you can implement as a company. You know, whether you do it every day, I recommend in my coaching program, making sure that at least once a month you have a actual safety meeting, called a safety meeting that's documented, a safety meeting that has a report behind it. You know what I mean? Or be videotaped and be a part of a collection, whatever. I think it should be random every week, every other week. You know, your GM, your supervisors should be going, hey, and I just want to remind you about our safety score. I just want to remind you that safety is important. A 30-second, 1 minute mention, just again about safety versus going 6 months, 8 months, can't even remember, no documentation, not protecting yourself. And if you're not willing to protect your own business just by going a little extra mile, we got a lot of miles in life we have to go, a little extra mile to at least talk about safety and give the resources. Let's talk about real quick some of those resources, because I really want to get into the weather. It's getting cold up where you are. It's getting snowy. Listen, it's going to get a little bit of frost on the roofs and stuff here for the Texas and Florida guys, maybe that they're not used to all year long. And it just one false play, puts us back to what we're talking about. But what are some of your favorite resources, man, when we say we recommend better safety practices?
Expert Safety Services has a really good program that you can sign up for, and it gets everybody access to the same stuff.
What does that say? Say that again for him. Expert Safety Services.
Yep. Michael Draper runs that, and we've done numerous training classes with Mike. He just was part of our solar safety convention in Las Vegas. A true expert in the industry, in across varied industries. So, and it's not just ladder safety; it's site safety, it's the JHAs, it's all encompassing. And you can sign up and you can have this ongoing. So, and then there's new stuff all the time for you to think about, new things to bring to your teams. So that's probably number one.
Okay.
And then some just free stuff. The National Ladder Safety Institute. They have things on there all the time. I think is it May is National Ladder Safety Month.
Yes.
When I was with the IWCA, we used to do that for toolbox talks. We would have this email that went out to all the members on Tuesdays, called it Toolbox Talks, and you could use something like that where on a certain day of the week you have these kind of we'll say Toolbox Talks where you're going to go through just a few things, and it's better to just cover one or two and not inundate people with a whole bunch of stuff. So there was a very specific theme for that day. You cover that, you bring up a few questions, you ask people if they have any thoughts, any questions, any suggestions. What's something that you see that we could do better, that we could be safer? You bring those up. So, those are a couple that come to mind really quick that, it's not like you're having to spend a ton of money. Right. You're just not even really going the extra mile. You're going an extra couple inches. And if you're going
not that much
inches every day,
it's sending out a text message or a email to your employees that with the link to this resource saying, hey, please do this. Yeah, I'll tell you a couple more, right, that you'll be on board with. I mean, obviously, I think requiring your initial upon immediate hire within 30 days of being an employee, you should have your OSHA 10.
Yep.
The company should pay for it. It's $50. There's always coupons for 36 and 29 or the employee pay. Employees, you guys, you should go get your OSHA 10, your 30 and your 80 and then demand more money from the owners. I'm on your team. You know that when you're like, oh, what's your attributes in home service? I'm really quick at hanging lights. I'm really fast at hanging gutters. How about here's all my safety accolades. I'm going to make sure that the company that I come to, I'm going to bring a culture of safety. Right. The other one is the Werner Ladder Safety Course 101 on the wernerladder.com. You can go down and it used to be about a 12 to 15 minute course. It's now a 55-minute course.
Nice.
Warner's done their thing and gave out, and that's free, guys. And you print out a certificate so you can tell your employee, I'd like you to do that, whatever. If you want to make them do it on their time or your time, that's all between you guys. But Werner Ladder Safety Course, and you can go on there. It's just a course that you can do on your phone or online, tons of multiple choice and videos. That's a great starting point as well. And then just having a bunch of different like actual documented resources. I think I recommend for people when they start, if they're just starting to say, okay, I'm going to start having more safety meetings, is remembering to document them in some form or fashion and keep log so that you understand that maybe you're only talking about one or two aspects of safety and there's 15. And you start to look back at that record. That's something that we offer in gutter growth, actually, is I got a document that's got like 50 or so safety meeting suggestion agendas built out. Like, you want to talk this, here's an entire agenda, and then you can have people sign off on it and say that they acknowledge it. Some of them have trainings behind it. I think that's probably something a lot of people need help with, though, right? They don't know how to start. And
we tie pay increases into certification. So if you get your OSHA 10, you can be eligible for a pay increase. If you get your OSHA 30, you eligible for a pay increase. If you have the 𝐊𝐞𝐯 solar safety certification, you can get a pay increase.
Nice. What is that? Will you tell us about that just briefly?
𝐊𝐶𝐶? Yeah, the 𝐊𝐶𝐯 solar safety. So that's the International Solar Cleaning Academy.
Okay.
So that's who hosted the solar convention, the first cleaning convention for solar in Las Vegas last week. And there's so much new stuff with solar, and a lot of people are getting into it. Well, window cleaners for sure, power washers, and I
makes sense.
Anybody who's doing gutters could even look at it too. And you just see a panel on a roof, and you say, okay, well, I can just get a water-fed pole and I can put a brush on it and I can clean that panel, and there's no problems. The issue is that we don't understand it, and it's actually an electricity producing panel.
Yeah.
And you're spraying water on it. And
Yes.
and then there's other things that you don't understand, because if you have an array of 10, well, the number 1 panel is producing 42 volts. Well, what's number 10 producing? Well, it's producing 10 times that. And so depending on where you're at in that array, if there's a fault or there's a crack, if there's a bad wire and you hit that with hit that with water and your carbon fiber pole, bam, you can get electrocuted.
Yeah,
so that is a full course on. There's an online version, but then we also do. I'm actually a 𝐊𝐞𝐯𝐢𝐬 trainer now. I went through that course last year and got certified.
Cool.
To do
Congratulations.
Yeah,
nice job.
Thank you. And it really covers a lot of the detail that you just don't know and you just didn't think about it. I certainly never did. And when I met Steve Williams, who we've talked a little bit about, that would be a great one to come on this podcast.
Yeah.
Just the enlightenment that I got from that went, wow, well, I don't want to touch a solar panel without my proper PPE. And then, when you talk about PPE and solar cleaning, people are like, what do you need for that? Well, then that course goes through all the recommended personal protective equipment and all that. So
nice. Okay.
All of our techs, before they can touch a solar panel with anything, they have to go through that course.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, that's good. There's a lot more solar panels coming to roofs near you, whether you're in the Christmas lights, window cleaning, whatever. They're just coming on more roofs, especially in gutters. A lot of gutter guys, they like walking the roof on anything more than, especially one story. And these panels, it's just good to be aware. People keep learning, never stop learning. If you're in the home industry, home service industry, and you own one or multiple of these companies, like what month are you going to say, you know what, it's a good time for a refresher for myself, first and foremost, myself as the owner, and then let me see what I need to offer to my employees to give them the best opportunity to listen. Talking about safety is not only good for safety, it's good for growth. When you're thinking smart and clearly, and I don't think me or Kevin are here to ever knock somebody making their own adult decision to reach out and lean off of a ladder and make as much money as you want to. Like, I'm not knocking that. I'm not here to judge you on a day-to-day basis, but publicly, I am here to say that we should recommend and speak a lot on safety. And a lot of people don't know what safe is. So let's get them to par, which is safe. And if they want to act wild, then act wild. We can't stop anybody from doing that. But but when we're paying people and asking them to do something, let's be quite clear. A lot of people in the ladder climbing industry, 17, 18, 19, 20, that are getting, that's a huge part of the industry, these younger kids. And we're figuring out that we don't love them as employees as much as we knew we wouldn't, because they don't show up as much. But they'll say, look at you right in your eye and go, yeah, I'm fine with heights and I'm cool on the ladder, because somebody wanted them to make money. And then here they are on your ladder and they're scared as shit. And I've seen it thousands of times, like so many times. Plus, here's the new guy. You're like, cool with heights? Yeah, he said he's great with heights. 10 feet in the air. And you're like, oh, man, we're doing this today.
Yeah,
it happens a lot more than people think. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that needs to be talked about as far as safety goes, because if you're unsure, if you're uncertain, you're unstable, that's when accidents tend to happen. So if you get to a point and you're like, I don't know what to do, and you panic, well, then the chance of an accident is much more likely to happen in that situation. So sometimes it's, hiring somebody and go, okay, so you said you're okay with heights, but let's climb the top of this ladder safely, and here's what steps you're going to do, and here's how you're going to do this, and just see how they do with things, or take them up in a lift or something. I've seen a lot of people over the years that could climb a 40-foot ladder and they were fine. Took them up in a 40-foot scissor lift, and because it rocked,
they're freaking holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot to be said too about when you're the one in control up the ladder, and then you're the one. It's like sitting in the passenger seat with someone. Imagine sitting in the passenger seat with someone else's wife driving, and they're in the back seat, and you're in the passenger seat. You're like, "Holy shit! I thought my life was wild."
Right.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah.
Which brings up a really good point. Not my stupid comment, but what you were saying, and I want to continue to use this moment because me and you we're getting to know each other now. This is how I use the moment. I'm kind of spur of the moment with it. I think it's so important that when we don't just talk to owners, I have a lot of installers. So those guys that are actually, now out doing the work. Listen, you guys create value in yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can all talk big online about how many thousands of feet or whatever. That's great. And you guys know what kind of money you bring in the bank and or don't. But if I'm hearing this right now, I just heard these two guys spout off like 5 or 6 different courses. And I don't think I have any of those. And Kevin, I mean, honestly, in a matter of 30 to 60 days, you could be a pro pretty much in everything we just said. Hop on your OSHA 30 in the evening for 2 hours, take this course, take that course, watch this video. You could technically, and then they can say to their employer, hey guys, over the past 90 days, I really invested in myself in safety, and I went and got 4, 5, 6 online certificates. Yep. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm trying to be of more value, and I'm looking to make more money in 2025. And I also want to be a leader at the company in safety. And hey, quite frankly, I think that's worth an extra 50 cents an hour, or a $10,000 a year, or give me the safety supervisor position for the year. And I'll do my best to keep this company, all 9 of these guys, really safe. And I think that's worth an extra $400 a month, create value in yourself.
Absolutely. And an empowered employee will be one of your most valuable assets. They'll make you a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
When they have the knowledge and they feel that they're important, they feel that they're vital to the organization, and they have the ability to make educated decisions, they are going to be a very, very valuable asset. One of my favorite books is called Telling Ain't Training. And it talks about the psychology of education. And one of the things that it goes through is there's 3 different levels to education. And you have training, which is at the bottom. Then you have instruction. And then you have education. And in all of those levels, we kind of use them synonymously when we're talking about things, because we're going to say, well, we're going to go through this training. Yeah. But what that book does is it kind of breaks it down. Training is more of a do as you're told, but you don't really act on your own. So the example is you train a dog, right? So sit down, roll over, beg. When you tell them to do it and they know that there's a treat coming, there's something, a reward for them, they'll do what you say. But they're not going to go off on their own and be able to go, oh, it's time to sit down, And then if you get to instruction, so now you've kind of raised that up a little bit, you're teaching them how to do certain things, and then you're also teaching them how to make some decisions on their own, and be able to incorporate the thought process with that decision. And then you get to education at the top, and that's where the empowerment comes in, where they understand everything that's involved with the decision that they need to make. They understand all the things that go with it and what the consequences are, and they can make an accurate and educated choice, decision on the job, because you've given them that education. So I'm a big proponent of, I almost never say training when I'm talking to staff or when I'm doing any consulting.
Yeah.
I don't want to put on a training class. I want to put on an education class, or at very minimum an instructional class, because that's going to give them things that they can take back and again, let them think on their own so they can act independently of you, knowing that they have your support, of course, but they can still make the best decisions possible on their own when you can't be there as an owner or manager.
100%. Very well said. Said like a man that's about to be living in the snow.
Well, yeah, we've got it snowed yesterday, so we had snow.
What? Yeah. I called my dad tonight. Did my dad get snow, you think, up in Detroit?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't stick because the ground still, we haven't had a hard freeze or anything. So it went away pretty quick. But kind of what you were talking about earlier, we're getting to those Christmas, we're in the Christmas light season. There's a lot of people that are trying to get their last few things of the year done, whether it's gutters, window cleaning, whatever. If you're on a ladder was on the truck overnight, it gets cold, it's a little bit slippery, the roof has some frost on it. Now that just changes.
Yeah.
That just increases your risk level a lot. Then if you're cold on top of it and you don't have the right shoes on, or you just are cold, that just adds a whole nother risk level.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a really this is the time of the year when I would just, I think the most amount of accidents happen is going into the slippery. It's just slippery. This is what it just gets really slippery. And even, in the South where we're not used to like any frost or anything on stuff for the most part, all of a sudden we start showing up around, 7:30 in the morning, 8 a.m. and there's still frost on the non-sun, the side that doesn't see the sun. And we're like either sketched out or we still just get it done. Right. And that's when you're going to slip and, crash 2 stories and blow your hip out or something bad.
Well, and it's just even something to talk about, especially up here in the northern states where we tend to get a little bit more snow and ice. You can fall getting out of the truck, so.
Yes. Yeah. I know all about that.
Job. So, it's another part of that safety aspect that when you add in another factor, another component, that you add that into your safety talks, and you add that into the things that you're going to discuss and try to keep people safe with. There's the more opportunity that's there to get hurt, the more likely you are to get hurt.
Yeah. And then you're talking workman's comp and reports, and your insurance goes up. Your insurance goes up.
That's the statistics in that $24 billion
Yeah.
I talked about in the beginning. The last thing you want to happen is your mod rate to go up if you got employees, because now that's going to follow you for a while. So the more work comp claims that you have, the more you're going to pay in insurance, and it goes up a lot quicker than it goes down.
What do you do with how do you really prep, you think, for like this change from a company that, listen, we know people care about people, and a lot like life, we understand like a lot happens in life. And sometimes you've had a company for 18 years now, and whatever the last 8-10 years you ain't been big on safety, and nothing major's really happened, and you're just like, blah, I'm good. Or if I start having meetings, people are gonna start quitting.
Yeah.
Like when like what do you think the best recommendation is to really just take that first step? Is it to like have some fun, maybe go take people to like a safety course and go out and do something physical and kind of like have a big win together, and get some certifications or something, or invite everybody over and work on your OSHA 10 together and play blackjack? What do you do? Like, what have you seen, or how do you guys talk about that in the safety industry?
Well, it's never the topic that people want to discuss. And I would love to be able to say that I sat here and watched a podcast like this and my mindset changed and I was a different person and all of a sudden safety. Right. Even working with some of the leaders in the safety industry, there still can be somewhat of a mental block to where you look and you go, yeah, but it's probably not gonna happen. I've always found that when the more engaging the thing can be that you're talking about, whether it's a meeting, it's a safety talk, the more engaging and the more fun it can be, the more you're going to get people to participate and remember. Because what we were talking about before the show, redundancy. Well, we don't want to say the same thing over and over and over again, but in some ways you have to say the same thing over and over and over again. One thing that I did find, now it will cost a little bit of money, but I've found it to be very worthwhile over the years, is to bring a safety trainer or a consultant in to your staff,
Right.
they see it differently. And I've seen it numerous times over the years. We would have a manager meeting, and there was at times 15, 18 managers that we had in these meetings.
Okay.
And I would have something every week that I was going through, and I would give information on, and it could be just about business, it could be about cleaning, it could be about safety, whatever. And I would go through this stuff, and then we would see a need, and we would bring a trainer in, a consultant in, or somebody to do a class, and they would say the exact same thing that I said. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, this he's a genius. He said to do this, and he said to do that, and this all makes sense. And why aren't we doing this? And I just sat back and go, yeah, that's why we hired him, because he's a pretty smart guy, saying the same exact thing. But because they were hearing my voice every day, it just kind of, that whole idea of in one ear and out the other just didn't stick. But when somebody else came in and did it, when they said it, all of a sudden it made sense, and it clicked somewhere. And to me, employees and kids are a lot alike.
I was thinking of my son. When I tell him how to shoot a basketball, and he's like, and then he gets around because he plays for the Kendrick Perkins League here in the Houston, Texas area. Okay. So there's a lot of actual real NBA players that are at his games, 𝐊𝐞𝐯𝐢𝐬. But when they say it, and I'm like, dude, I'm not. He's like, you don't got no rings. I'm like, you're right. That's fine. Whatever.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of those things where our oldest is 28.
Okay.
And there's things, and she's one of the supervisors running the crew. There's things that she'll come back to me now and say, and I'll think, I remember when that was my idea, and I was trying to get that across, and it was just a block. She didn't want to hear any of it.
No, of course.
And all of a sudden now, as she's gotten older and she's gotten some more experience, now all of a sudden she comes back and she's saying the same things that I said before, but now it's her idea. Okay, that's great. That's brilliant. Let's go with that plan.
Yeah.
So that is a really good way to do it. And then, if you can make it fun, something like, let's plan an OSHA 10, and we're going to take a day a month, and we're all going to study together, and we're going to go through the course, and we're all going to get that safety certification. That would make it more fun.
Yeah, that's not that hard either, to order pizzas or do something, or take everybody out and do an hour and go around the table answering a question. Like, exactly. It's just investment. You said the key word, though, when you said it was her plan, but at least the best part about growth is having a plan. Like, that means you have a direction that you're going. And we're just asking you guys, you viewers, you listeners, to have a plan for safety. Have it built into your handbook. Have some resources. Have some offerings. Have a little fluctuation. Remember, you can just budget in safety and look at it every single year, and have a quarterly budget, a weekly budget, whatever it is. Put something at it, say, and then you'll find when you go, okay, I'll throw $500 at safety for the year. And you look how puny that is when you try to do anything around safety. And you go, oh, you only $500 is all you think safety's worth?
Yeah.
Oh, tell that to your employees. I want to see that meeting. Now, obviously, employees aren't screaming for they're not begging for safety stuff. But listen, put $1,000, put 2,500, 3,500 towards safety each year, whether you use it or you don't. Allocate it into your budget, because that lets you know at least you've done the first step of having a plan towards being better at safety. That's my recommendation as a first start.
Yeah, and I know some people
come up with the number that you think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know some people that had really good success with things like safety bingo. I didn't do it, so I don't know all the parameters of it, but basically making it a game. And if you hit these certain criteria, and you can get a reward for that, whatever that. And that could be a company jacket. It could be something monetary.
Yeah,
card,
I know what you mean.
To a restaurant or something like that. So then they feel like they're getting something, and they have a possible reward for it. Naturally, as humans, we want
other than their
reward.
life. other than their life.
Yeah,
But yeah, we got a reward for everything these days. I mean, and you should. These people are working for you. You should reward them.
yeah.
It's
Just
not
kind of
too bad.
that whole reward, that treat thing, that
Mhm,
if
mhm.
there's a goal to it, people will tend to buy into it more and want to participate in it more. And it's about redundancy because, even in sales, I get a lot of questions. People ask about door to door, going or sending flyers, and then like I saw one on Reddit a couple weeks ago, and they were asking about flyers, and they said, "Oh, I sent out 1,000 flyers, and I didn't get one response." I'm like, well, you sent out 1,000, which in sales is not that much, but you
Right.
sent them out one time and expected responses. On average, potential customers need to see your name 3 to 7 times before they're going to buy from you. So you do 1,000 4 times to the same addresses. That's how you're going to get that. It's that
Yeah.
whole redundancy thing.
Yeah.
So even if you're not going through actual safety education and making them sit down in a classroom, if you're doing something like safety bingo and they're hearing the same phrase, they're hearing that same thing over and over, it plants in their head, and then the next time they're on a ladder or the next time they have to do something, it just pops up like, oh, 3 points of contact. Okay, so I'm going to try to remember that, and now they're going to be a little bit safer when they're doing their job. So it's not always about having something that everybody has to attend. It's really boring and they just don't want to sit through it. Sometimes it's just the phrases, it's just the keywords, just talking about it, keeping it at the forefront of everybody's mind.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it is. It's repetitive. You talked about Mike Draper earlier. We're gonna have him on. What we figured, what in like say 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Tell me a little bit more about. Tell the audience a little bit more. You said he's got a program, right? So
Yeah, he has the
expert
safety
safety
advocate.
services.
Yeah, he
Get,
has
get on
expert
it.
safety services and the safety advocate program. He is the safety director for the PWNA,
Yeah.
and he's a safety consultant for the IWCA. Mike's been doing it a long time. And he started in the field. He had a window cleaning business. I think it was 15 or 20 years ago. He sold that and then went off into the safety stuff.
Okay.
And he's doing a lot all across the country. They do a joint training with Petzl for rope descent training. So, and then we kind of, when I was with the IWCA, and I think I had mentioned it on the last one where we came up with the solar safe guidelines, cleaning guidelines for the IWCA for window cleaners. Mike was on that committee. And we sat down and we had numerous committee meetings. We put all this information together, and he was a wealth of information there. And so now, as we circle back around, I'm not with the IWC anymore, but then we have the solar convention that we wanted to do. So we decided to put that on, call Mike, hey, are you interested in being there and doing
Right.
a co-safety class with Steve? Yeah, absolutely. And it went great. So again, just a lot of experience, a lot of information, and then a program that's really pretty simple to go through, and it's just at your fingertips, um, so that you can just have those little things that you can go through on a daily basis, weekly basis to keep that in front, and new content that's always coming out, and a lot of stuff that you just don't even think about
Yeah. Yeah.
that
It's a
we
lot
don't.
of it's not top of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's sometimes it's stuff that we don't have time to research, but it can go through like electrical safety is one of the big ones that we've been talking about. And then with the water fed pole work with window cleaners, I can't remember if I mentioned it before, but the IWCA, we tracked those injuries and deaths, and there was more deaths from pole work than there was rope descent over the
Really.
last 4 years. Yeah, like 4 times as many. So we have this thing that we think, okay, well, now I don't have to get off the ground. So I've got this pole. I don't have to get off the ground. I don't have to get on a rope or lift, ladder. Now I'm safe. Well, now there's a hazard that we didn't encounter. One of the guys that was on the board with me my first year, he had an employee that got killed because his pole veered over and it got too close to a power line and it arced and shot down and electrocuted. And when it starts hitting close to home like that, then it really, really, really makes you think.
Yeah.
People,
100%. Yeah. It's always really unfortunate, like how a lot of people, I can't speak for you, I'm not speaking about me, but they just live their life like in this little zone, like things aren't happening to people around them. And then something happens to someone around them and they get a little squirrely about it and they make this little subtle change and then it kind of fizzles away. But It's like, I'm not looking forward to losing anybody close to me over like a freak accident. Let's just try to do this as natural as possible, and not have like when you don't have a opportunity to make a safe decision. Again, that's when I keep talking about it's really on these employers to give them an opportunity to get highly trained with these polls and know what the pros and cons are, because I just feel horrible for the ones that it happens to that maybe weren't given the proper training and they're just out there trying to provide for their family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, totally different if you've been told and you better. Like I said, you can't control everybody. But let's give everybody an opportunity to know better.
Yep. Yeah. And what I've always said is, we've heard the phrase knowledge is power over and over and over again. But what I add to that is that shared knowledge is powerful. So the more information that we can get out there on doing things like this, with our employees, with people that we work with in the industry, that can become a powerful tool for people, so that hopefully everybody's going home every day. Everybody gets to have the holidays with their family, because 300 people this year won't have that opportunity. And when you think about it that way, what if I was one of them? What if my kid was one of them? What if my wife or my spouse or significant other was one of them? What if my best friend was one of them? Then it kind of gives you a little bit more sobering thought to it. And I just really think we've got to be able to get out of the frame of mind that it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Nobody leaves their house expecting to get in a car accident. That, statistically speaking, you're much more likely to get in a car accident than you are in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And we just go out every day and we just drive. As I've gotten older, I was quite reckless with vehicles when I was young. Had the muscle cars and raced and did all that kind of stuff. Now I just drive as defensively as I can.
Right.
Because there's just a much higher likelihood of things that could happen. So just being aware and knowing it could, and I'm going to do everything possible to make sure it doesn't.
I think that's going to be a good topic. I'm going to leave you with this. I think our next one we get on, let's make sure we talk specifically about that. There's so much safety in driving, right? Because we have a fleet of young men and women around this country out working in the home service industry in those company vehicles. And there's a lot of safety we can talk about that. A lot of safety we can still talk with electricity. And I think we'll eventually get to the part where let's put something together. Let's have a conversation offline where we can put together maybe what we'd call just a recommended trusted list of places to get safety equipment from. So if you want to wrap your head a little bit around that, I appreciate you here on this Friday afternoon, giving us did about another hour here. So thank you for helping me keep safety in the forefront. All you guys out there, be safe and really just enjoy your evening and your loved ones out there with the holiday season coming. The traffic is going to be wild out there too. So, and don't slip. Like you said, man, you can slip and fall getting out of your car at Olive Garden with your grandma the day before Christmas and bust your hip. Then that'll change your life. So just be safe.